This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
From my parents' accounts, I was a happy baby and toddler, and spent my time pouring my food over my head and falling over. The problem was that our Plaistow landlord didn't allow children in his flat, so Mum and Dad decided to move out and put our names down for one of the high-rise council flats that were replacing the bombed terraces of the East End. This left us with nowhere to live in the short term, so we went to stay with Mum's sister, Aunt Ellen, and her husband Uncle Bob, and my cousin Rose in Canning Town. Their council house had a small garden, and they were gracious hosts, but it was cramped with all of us there. And even though I was only 2 years old, I think I sensed we were in the way. My dad was back on the docks by now, and every day my mum would take me out in my second-hand pushchair to get us out from under Aunt Ellen's feet. We'd walk around Rathbone Street Market in Canning Town, a hubbub of stallholders and shoppers that felt like the most exciting place in the world, or take our ration book to the butcher's to get a few scrag ends of meat. This routine went on for a year, with the council showing no interest in offering us a home, so my parents tried to force their hand. After a brief family conference, it was agreed that Ellen and Bob would order us to leave, and my dad would tell the authorities that we were homeless. This plan backfired in a major way. The council put us into a workhouse. I say workhouse, but a lot of people would call it a nut house. Forest House in James Lane, Whipps Cross, was an institution for the homeless and the mentally ill. There was no room there for my dad, so he had to stay with his sister Ivy in Barking and pay the 18 bob a week rent for Mum and me to share a poky, curtained cubicle with a single bed and a cupboard. Forest House was full of women and kids in the same desperate situation as us, crammed into tiny living units and all sharing one kitchen. 60 years on, I can still picture the pink roses on the cubicle curtains, and remember the harsh smell of hospital antiseptic that lingered around in its long, cream corridors. Forest House seemed massive to me, and as a wide-eyed kid, I found it fascinating. It had a surreal, almost fairy tale air. Troubled inmates trudged the corridors, singing to themselves. I got to know a few of them. One man asked me one morning if I would like some conkers, and returned that evening with a coal sack full of them. Another man asked Dad during one of his nightly evening visits if he would like him to fix his broken watch. He took it away and returned it in 100 pieces, confessing that he didn't know how to fix them ones. Yet Forest House had its dark side. I can remember one thrashing inmate being restrained as he had an epileptic fit. My mum and I would have breakfast every morning at 7 and clear out for the day. We'd walk around nearby Wanstead flats or get the bus over to my nan in Stratford. These journeys could be a problem. As a toddler, I had long, blonde ringlets, and Mum and I couldn't go anywhere without some old lady stopping us to coo over how sweet I was. A shy kid, I hated this attention, and normally reacted by bursting into tears. Our 6 months in Forest House were an adventure for me, but I could sense sadness in my parents, and that period was awful for them. Once we had left, we never discussed it. The one time that we did, my mum confessed that she had thought of jumping off the fire escape by our cubicle and ending it all. She said she would have done if she hadn't had me. It was just as bad for my dad. He was a proud man and felt he had let us down. He came from an even bigger family than Mum. As the youngest of 13, his father, a stern Victorian Scotsman from Glasgow, never called him by his real name, Albert. He called him one too many, What a great ego boost that must have been. Dad was a very smart man. If he hadn't come from such a poor family, I reckon he could have gone to university.